Yes, sir, it's your boy Mikhail Bird, Mactown TV, Mactown Radio, and today we got some rather unfortunate news because as I sort of discovered this guy, I literally found out he was dead on the same day that I sort of kind of discovered him. Now, truth be told, I think I've actually heard of EBE Bandz before he passed away, just sort of like in passing, just being in the music business. But the fact of the matter is, this dude died a pretty tragic death. Now, I'm on YouTube right now, and I'm sitting here looking around, and I'm like, okay, first off, let's discuss who this guy is. I actually took notes on the situation. Now, his real name is William Pickering, and there are conflicting reports, in my opinion. There's conflicting reports about how exactly he died, but based on what I've seen on YouTube and based on what I've heard, in various interviews from various hip-hop news media outlets and stuff like that. I guess this guy got famous on YouTube at some point. He got famous on YouTube probably first because he did a music video of sorts where I guess he's either freestyling or it's just a full-blown rap song, either way. But he got famous, and, you know, after he gets famous from this YouTube thing, or I don't know if it was on World Star or what. If you know more about the EBE Bandz situation, then please leave a comment. Leave a comment on the YouTube channel, Mactown TV, youtube.com/MactownTV. But from what I see, I guess he was born and raised in Texas somewhere, and at some point later on in his life, he had moved to Chicago, and as soon as he moves into Chicago, he starts getting into some gangster shit, right? He starts associating with gangsters and shit like that. And there's other videos that I will link to in the description of this video, sort of going on and on about, you know, his affiliation with Chicago gangs and stuff like that. But this just goes to show that you are the company you keep, okay? So, point in fact, if you're constantly associating with gangsters, the gangster type, then, you know, this is the type of shit that can happen, and it might not even be the gang. It might be somebody who you never even expected, you know what I mean? And the fact of the matter is, let's see, his real name's William Pickering, right? And here's where the conflicting reports come into play. Some people are saying that the dudes that killed him were at some point his friend. Perhaps they got into a physical, an argument of some sort. I don't fucking know. But the conflicting reports are that either A, I think they found him in the trunk of his car in Rockford, Illinois, and another group of people, which I'll link to in the description, but they're sitting here saying that he was beaten with baseball bats and that his body was set on fire and all types of wicked shit. I honestly don't know what the truth is at this point because there's so many conflicting reports. But all I want to say is this. Let me go into details about EBE Bandz, okay? Let me just give you guys some perspective, my own personal little opinion on the subject. EBE Bandz, who later sort of joined forces with this other group of gangsters called GME. So there was a mashing of the words, right? It was GME and then EBE. So at some point, and this is when he did the Vlad TV interview, by the way, at some point, he was calling himself GMEBE Bandz, okay? It gets very confusing with the name. But let me tell you this. As a white dude who was born and raised in Riverdale, Georgia, Clayton County, Southside till I die, 30274. Spent a lot of time in Riverdale, Jonesboro, Stockbridge, McDonough, Jackson, College Park, East Point. Some places I lived in, some places were just stomping grounds where I would go. I mean, there is a such thing as a gangsta-ass white boy, somebody who was sort of born and raised in a hood, somebody who embraced black culture around him, embraced gang culture, embraced the street life, street culture, drug culture, all this crazy shit. Some people embrace it, some people reject it, and sometimes when someone embraces it, it doesn't turn out the way you want it to turn out. You know, you would like to see people get out of that life. You know what I mean? You would like to see people get out of that life and make some money and sort of live a cleaner life, so to speak. And EBE Bandz just never really made it to that point. You know, he did these freestyles where he got a lot of attention probably because he's a white dude, right? He's a white dude who raps, and he raps about some gangsta shit. And a lot of people, you know, white people who grew up in the suburbs, who don't know anything about that lifestyle, like I said, it's sort of like, it's fascinating to them, right? It's fascinating for white people who grew up in a fucking bubble their whole life, in a white bubble where they only really lived around other white people. They don't know anything about black culture. They don't know anything about street culture or drug culture or gang culture or anything like that. So this is nothing more but entertainment to them. It's just entertainment to them, right? And so they're fascinated by people like EBE Bandz. And this guy was even on DJ Vlad with his whole fucking crew, GMEBE, you know? And again, I'll post links to those videos in the description, but the fact of the matter is sometimes, and I'd really like to know if these guys that killed him, they're saying there's 2 guys that were involved in his death, in his murder. I'd really like to know if these guys were in fact his friend, or, you know, were they some snakes in the grass? Like they pretended to be his friend for a while, but they secretly were jealous of him. They were secretly hating on him, and then, you know, one thing led to another, and then they killed him. Or, here's something that I've been considering. Perhaps EBE Bandz, real name William Pickering, perhaps, you know, he said the wrong thing to the wrong people at the wrong time. Perhaps he pissed them off. And, you know, once again, one thing led to another, and they ended up killing his ass. You get what I'm saying? Smoker's cough. Anyway, you know, that type of shit goes down in the hood, especially when you're dealing with the gangster types, right? Or what's worse than a gangster type is the wannabe gangster types. Those fucking people are 10 times worse than the people who are actually gangsters, because the wannabe gangsters are the fucking ones who feel like they got something to prove. You know what I mean? They feel like they got something to prove, and they do a whole bunch of sucker shit, and they end up killing other people. You know, other people get shot, people get killed, accidents happen, people get robbed, people get shot and killed in those scenarios, and so it's just a tragic situation. But all I can say to this is it's just sad. You know what I mean? That's honestly my only fucking conclusion here. Is it's sad because as someone who, you know, from time to time I could sit here and consider myself a hood-ass white boy, right? I've been in a lot of situations. I've seen a lot of things. I've heard a lot of things. I've been in the theater of a lot of things. You know, I've been in the audience of a lot of things, so to speak. And for me to see another white dude who was on some hood shit, who was in this rap game trying to make a name for himself, to see that lifestyle sort of engulf him and swallow him whole, pause, it's just fucking sad, man. You know what I mean? It's just fucking sad. And so rest in peace, EBE Bandz. I'd like to see if anyone has more information about this subject, please post it in the comments. MacTown TV, MacTown Radio, added us music distribution and promotions, of course. It's your boy, Mikhail Bird, dopest podcast in every dimension, and I'm out. Peace.